sure to check out brucemontalvo.bandcamp.com. brucemontalvo.bandcamp.com for my latest book, The Language of Symbols, and all sorts of merchandise from t-shirts, the Trump World Order t-shirt, the Hillary Not My President t-shirt, or the Jail Soros t-shirt, all available at the Bruce Montalvo store, the official Bruce Montalvo store, at brucemontalvo.bandcamp.com.
TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application, Mobile Talk Radio. Imagine having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. You'll be surprised how easy it is to use.
So I think what's going on here is that Obama is banking on unemployment falling.
Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
Go to Antique Obsessions for the hottest in jewelry, antiques, repurposed, solid sterling silver, one-of-a-kind, handmade by Bruce and Jaja. Go to our Facebook, which is Antique Obsessions, or you can go to Etsy.com and go to Antique Obsessions, one word, or type it into your Google and find us there. Thanks.
Tribal, primitive, rustic, Burning Man, punk rock. Conceptual subculture for the edgiest, most cutting-edge designs of jewelry today. Go to Etsy.com/shop/conceptual subculture, or one word, either by going to Google or search Etsy, ETSY.com, and type in one word, conceptual subculture. You will find the hottest designs using natural stones with wire wrap rings, rough, raw, genuine, semi-precious gemstone jewelry, solid sterling silver, copper, leather, orgonite, bracelets, pendants, chokers, men's copper cups with sterling accents, eco-friendly, repurposed, original, one-of-a-kind design earrings. Support MBN by going to Conceptual Subculture on Etsy. Be sure to use our 40% off coupon, BRUCE40, at checkout to receive this fabulous offer.
Warning, warning, everything I say is fucking crazy and should not be reinterpreted or reenacted because you will be either shot or NDAA'd. Warning. The mysteries of the universe and the Water Boy's philosophy. This and more coming up next.
So depressed. I don't know what to do. Hey, go for it, man. It's easy for you to say you got the promotion. Look, it'll come, all right? Just don't worry about it.
The feeling is definitely there. It's a new morning in America. Fresh, vital. The old cynicism is gone. We have faith in our leaders.
Joining me now is a true legend, a true legend, the voice of astrotheology, scholar, lecturer, a fountain of knowledge behind the hidden meaning of words and secret societies, Jordan Maxwell. Hello, Jordan. How are you?
Well, fine, and thank you for having me on again.
Thank you for always joining us. I mean, it's amazing to have like I said, a legend, the voice of astrotheology on my show. I mean, it's incredible. To me, it's incredible to have you on.
Well, that's awful nice of you. I don't consider myself to be that important, but I thank you for it anyway.
Well, we thank you for being on, Jordan. Now, Jordan, let's talk about the 6,000-year master plan the masters have been conducting, this new world religion, a one world religion. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it's been talked about so much that there's not much I can add to it. The mere fact that there's some sort of a dark movement on the earth, some sort of a dark agenda, I guess you would say, being accomplished that's been in operation for thousands of years. And pretty much I boil it down to the ownership of the human race and the earth. And I think the things that are happening today in the world, all the chaos and the wars and all the horrible stuff going on around the world in every country, it actually has something to do with a world movement that's been in operation for many thousands of years, and it has to do with a spiritual presence on the earth. Lots of people are talking about UFOs and aliens and all kinds of strange phenomena happening in the sky and on the earth. And there's also a lot of talk about the out of place artifacts, strange things that have been found on the earth that challenge us and challenges our understanding of history. And then, of course, all the great temples and enormous structures that we're finding in the oceans of the world. There's just an awful lot of strange stuff going on the earth, and it begs to the question as to who are we and where do we come from and what's going on. It seems as though there's been something happening and something going on for a long, long time, and it's finally coming to a point now that people all over the world are now awakening to the fact that nobody on the earth has any power to do anything. And we are all being led into some kind of a dark future that has nothing to do with humanity at all. It's going to be a very, very dark place soon. Wow. And it's very scary because I understand what's going on. You have to understand the spiritual implications of history and how things work and why they work the way they do. And I'm just telling you that there is some sort of a spiritual presence on the earth that is not of this world. One of the terms that has been used when I was a kid was supernatural.
Right. But
that is not a correct term. Supernatural simply means it's natural, but very natural. It's supernatural. The correct term is preternatural. P-R-E-T-A, preternatural. Preternatural means not of this world, not of this world, and not of this life that we live here. So I think that there is a preternatural presence on the earth that is guiding the whole human race for thousands of years, and now, of course, it's giving us. They've been giving us this dark presence has been giving us technology in the last couple of 100 years, preparing the human race for something which is coming, and I don't know what they have in mind, but whatever it is, it's not good.
Jordan, have you heard of the Greada Treaty? Because that's a treaty where apparently the supernatural, these entities, yes, they gave the U.S. Weaponry in exchange to experiment on mankind.
Oh yes, yeah. We've known that for a long time.
During Eisenhower.
Yeah, well, it goes back even further, back to pre-communist Russia, back in the 1890s to 1900.
Right.
And when Russia, before the communist revolution, Russia was already experimenting on crossbreeding animals and humans.
Wow.
The Germans picked it up in Europe during the 20s and the 30s. There's a lot of documentation and interesting material on the fact that the whole process and the whole idea of recreating the human race, and a lot of that was coming out of Nazi Germany, where they were crossbreeding animals with humans. And they even made movies back in 1938, 39. There was a movie, a very famous movie, back in 1939. That's a long time ago. The movie was called The Island of Lost Souls. I think it was Charles Laughton was the star in the movie. The Island of Lost Souls. Then in 1965, Burt Lancaster remade the movie, and it was called The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Right.
And then the last and final film that Marlon Brando did, the last movie he made before he passed away, was called The Island of Dr. Moreau. And in that, which goes all the way back to the 1938 movie, which goes all the way back to the turn of the century.
Right.
The idea was that scientists were crossbreeding animals with humans.
Oh my
And the
God.
idea, generally speaking, was to be able to create a human creation which would have the dexterity to work and
Right.
use tools.
A superhuman. I mean,
Say it again.
A superhuman.
Yeah,
They weren't
yeah,
just
exactly.
shooting. They weren't just shooting USSR space monkeys into space. I mean, they wanted to make a superhuman. The same with the Nazis, right? And they were reverse
Of course,
engineering
absolutely. That's exactly
humanity.
right. And so now then we have television shows called The $6 Million Man, and then from there we've got all
That's a
these
good one.
new movies like the sci-fi movies about the crossbreeding of aliens with humans. So I'm sure there's something like that has been going on for a long time. And when you get into the entertainment industry with music and motion pictures, television shows, you begin to see the sci-fi movies are telling you all kinds of important things that they're leading the humans to accept. And the thing I noticed many years ago, before most of my audience was even alive, I knew and I had heard from military people that when the government and the universities that are financed by the U.S. government, these universities are doing these cross-breeding projects, animals and humans, etc. There will be a lot of people who will not want that to happen, and who will see the danger and start, talking about that they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, messing with the human race. But the government and the schools will just say, well, we're just experimenting, to help save lives with the diseases and all the terrible diseases that
Right.
mankind has. So we're just trying to help the human family. Well, that of course is bullshit. Everybody knows it, and because we knew that way before the universities in America were doing that kind of research and development. We know that the Nazis were doing it, and the pre-Russian Revolution were doing it. It's been going on for a long time.
And they gave the knowledge to DARPA, who's doing it today with the
absolutely.
Chimeras.
Absolutely.
I mean, this that you speak of, Jordan, could very well be the origins of, people are going to laugh, but Sasquatch. this Humanzee, this
That's exactly right.
Yes.
I think that probably what we call Sasquatch, or the abominable snowman, or Yetis, or
That's
whatever
right.
they want to call these creatures. I have had my own feeling about those creatures. For one thing, I know that these creatures do, in point of fact, exist, because I have my own impersonal brush with one.
Oh
and
my God!
So I know they exist because I was there. And that was
it wasn't Harry and the Hendersons, was it?
Say it again.
It wasn't Harry and the Hendersons, right?
No. No, this was a very scary event in my life. It was very frightening.
I could imagine.
there were two other boys my age. We were 19 years old, and I was 19, and I think one of them was 19, and his brother was 20 years old, and this was back in 1959.
Wow.
And we were working at the same place. It's just the three of us. We all worked together in this shop. And the owner was from Germany, a really nice German guy, very nice and very generous. And he said to us one day, he said, well, he was going back to Europe for a month of vacation. So that means we're out of a job for a month. And so that night that was on a Friday night, and he said, so you guys have to take off for a month because I'm going to be gone, but I'm going to pay all of you. I'm going to pay all three of you, your regular salary for a month. And so he gave us cash, all three of us, for the whole month. And so naturally, you got three 19 and 20-year-olds. We decided, what are we going to do? I mean, we got so much money now. We got cash.
Money to burn.
Yeah, and so it was decided that we would pack up. One guy had a new car, so we decided to pack up the new car and go up into the wilderness for a month. Just go away, and I do mean way out in the middle of nowhere, and spend a month in the wilds. And so we drove from Los Angeles up to Olympia, Washington.
Wow.
And then in Olympia, we finally stopped. We went to the Olympia Brewing and the beer, where they're making the beer. And then we went to the markets. And we filled up the car, and on the top of the car and the trunk, we filled up the car with food and beer and all kinds of foods and drinks, etc. And then we drove about an hour to an hour and a half outside of Olympia, Washington, into the mountains. And we went way up into the mountains until finally we found a dirt road, and we took off the highway and went up this dirt road for about maybe an hour's drive. And we came to a dead end, where a dead end was at a river. And that area was so incredibly beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Snow-capped mountains, a beautiful river, and it was like a little small beach. So we decided to set up camp there, which we did. But the three of us, I guess all three of us together, were not thinking at all because we were too young.
Right.
We were too inexperienced. But when you are that far out, an hour and a half drive from a little town, which was another hour and a half from Olympia, you are really out into the wilds,
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but it never occurred to us that when we set up camp that night, we were drinking beer and enjoying ourselves, and never thinking about the possibility that there were bears, that there are mountain lions, there are all kinds of creatures out there that that we might have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so after a couple of nights, we didn't have any problems. But after a couple of nights, one night we decided to go to bed early, and so we were sleeping in sleeping bags next to the car. We backed the car up, aiming back toward the highway there at the river's edge. And so we would sleep next to the car. And so the oldest one was the driver, and he was sleeping on the ground next to the car on the driver's side. And then his brother was sleeping on the ground with the sleeping bag on the passenger side, and I was sleeping next to him and my sleeping bag. And so about, I don't know, in the middle of the night, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, we were sound asleep, and I heard a heavy crackling of leaves and branches. Something was very close. It was, and as it moved, it was smashing the branches and leaves,
Wow.
and I could hear it. I didn't move at all, but it frightened me because it finally dawned on me. This could be a bear, and if it is, I'm not armed. We did have a gun, but it was the driver was on the other side. He had the pistol.
Right, he was asleep.
Yeah, but the point is that I didn't know what it was, so I laid very quiet, didn't move, and I heard again. Just a few moments later, I heard another foot move. Just one foot, one movement. And I lay quiet, and then I waited for a few moments, and then another movement. So I knew it wasn't a bear because a bear is not going to 1 foot at a time.
Right.
And so I knew it wasn't a bear. But then my mind started thinking, what is it that is so heavy? It's crushing leaves and branches and everything so heavy. You could feel it was heavy. And so I moved, and when I moved to look up, it stopped. And I then punched my friend next to me and told him, we've got company. Something's right here. And it was only about, I'd say maybe 25 feet from where we were sleeping is the bush, the forest. And so he leaned under the car and punched his brother, woke him up, and told him something is right here, about 20, 25 feet from us. There's something in the bush. And so that was Roy. And so Roy opened up the door on the driver's side and reached in and got the pistol. And then he got ready with it. And then he reached up and turned on, he's laying on the ground, but he reached up and turned on the lights. And when the lights of the car came on, all of a sudden you heard something very big, very large, and very heavy walk away on 2 feet. It started to walk away into the forest, and we could hear it walking.
Wow.
And obviously it wasn't a bear, it wasn't cats. This was, whatever it was on 2 feet, and it was walking away, and you could hear it smashing the leaves and branches as it walked away. And so there was no doubt in our minds that we just came real close to seeing and meeting a Bigfoot.
Right.
And so I know they exist because I was there. We heard it, and that was really a scary experience that night.
I could imagine. I mean, I was in Yosemite, and a bear, a baby bear, was like 6 or 7 feet away from me, and I was drinking, and I could still tell it was a bear. So, I don't know what I would do if it was a chimera, Humanzee, Yeti. I would probably just like a deer in headlights,
and
like you did.
We had some other really, really dangerous and scary things happen to us when we were up there in Washington State, up in the mountains. We didn't realize when we first got there because it was so incredibly beautiful, right, and so quiet and peaceful, away from civilization. Never thinking, it's peaceful and quiet here, but if a bear comes in tonight, or a mountain lion, a 200 and 300 pound mountain lion,
let alone a government engineered man ape. How are you going to be prepared for that, Jordan?
Yeah. So,
anyway, it's
then
unbelievable.
You're going to have a second thought about how smart this was to do this. So
yeah,
we had other experiences, but all of my experiences in my life have taught me, over the years, has taught me that there is a world unseen around us.
Yes.
There's an unseen world. We call it an occult world because the word occult simply means hidden, and everything that seems to be of any importance has been hidden from all of us. And once you begin to open your eyes and see the dark world of hidden things which are happening around the world,
Right.
you begin to find out this is a very, very scary planet.
And like you say, Jordan, people have to do their homework. I mean, if you go back to the ancient Sumerians or the Mesopotamians, you see these half man, half hawk in the Egyptian, or
That's
you
right.
see these half man, half bird, in what is now considered, the Persian, the Mesopotamian, Syrian areas. All these artifacts, they depict another breed of man. I mean, we mentioned it. We went over Genesis and that quote where the sons of man and
That's right.
the daughters of, well, it was
Yep.
the sons of God and the daughters of man. So we went over that. So I mean, we know that they're in our own DNA. We have the DNA of the gods.
No doubt about it. And when we also know that there are life forms on this earth right now that we have no idea where they've come from, or what and what we can do about them. But we live with them. They are here on the earth. There is also a whole world of invisible life. Invisible life. We call them spirits.
Yeah.
There are many names for the spirit worlds. Some people call them poltergeists, others demons, devils, angels.
Or the Arabs call them jinn.
Yeah, and ghosts, and there's all kinds of names for this phenomenon of intelligent life that you can't see it. And so in the religions of the world, in Christianity talks about demons and devils and poltergeists and evil spirits. Well, there is no doubt in my mind whatsoever. There is something to that. It's a very interesting when you start studying demonology, devil worship. There is something legitimately there. There is something very legitimate about demonology, devil worship. All you have to do is to go to places like Haiti and watch the demonic depravity going on when people are taken over by demons or by unseen spirits.
Right, the voodoo.
Yep.
And how that correlates with the Catholic.
Then when you begin to understand how our world works, how the elite of this world, the guys at the top of the world, have made pacts with the devil. Oh my God, there's so many people have come out and talked about on television how they're famous musicians, famous entertainers, and they talk about how they have made an actual contract and a pact with the devil to be famous. And the crazy and the scary part about that is that I don't care what you think about the idea of making a pact with the devil. A lot of people who are absolutely stupid who will tell you that's a bunch of bull. But the problem is that the one thing I see in that subject of making a pact with the devil is that it works. It works very good. It works perfectly well.
Well, it's the crossroads magic. That's what other people don't know.
That's exactly right.
It's frightening.
Crossroads magic. And
I mean that is what they deem the keys to success, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's precisely right. And some of the people that what was their names? Hold on. Like Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was on 60 Minutes a few years ago and being interviewed, and the narrator asked him, was talking to him about his success in life, and Bob Dylan said that he made a deal many years ago to become famous, and he had no talent and wasn't going anywhere. But he wanted to be famous and he wanted to be a musician. So he made a deal, he said. And the guy on 60 Minutes asked him, are you talking about making a deal with the devil? He said, well, I'm just making a deal with the God who controls this world.
Wow. You know,
the
Jordan,
unseen one, and I made a deal with him.
you know, you gotta make a deal with the devil when you sound like this.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about, you know, it's not just Bob Dylan, Ozzy Osbourne,
Yes.
Jay-Z, and Keith Richards was on a television show one night being interviewed, and he's one of the guitarists with the Rolling Stones. And the guy asked him, so what's going on with you? And he said, well, I'm trying to eat right and get my health back and stay as healthy as I can. And the guy said, well, that doesn't sound like a rock artist I know. And he said, well, I got a reason. I need to stay healthy and stay alive as long as I can.
Right.
And the guy said, why? And he said, well, I made a deal with the other world, and when I leave this world, I've got to pay for that deal, because the deal gave me what I wanted. But when I leave this world, I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to finish my part of the deal.
Scary.
And I made a deal with my life and my spirit. And so when you hear all of these important people and successful musicians and people talking about making a deal with the devil, I'm telling you, there is something to that. It actually works. And you can't get any better than that when something as crazy it may sound, but it works.
You know, it may work, Jordan, but in the end, I mean, you gain the whole world, but you lose your soul, right?
That's it. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was talking about. Because when you make a deal with the dark side, with the devil, so to speak,
yes.
And devil is simply a word. I've said this so many times. Devil is simply putting the letter D, as in David, a letter D in front of the word evil.
Yes.
And it becomes devil. And of course, take one of the O's out of good, and it becomes God. So God is good and the devil is evil. But having said that, in religion is one thing. But there is an actual point of fact. Something very, very evil is in place on the earth. And most humans are not aware of it.
No.
And we're totally unaware that we're being watched and we're being guided by some kind of a dark spiritual force that we don't see, so we're not looking for it. I do see it. This is why the scripture said, as Jesus said, you look with your eyes, but you don't see. And you listen with your ears, but you don't hear. And with your heart, you don't get the sense of it. And that is precisely where the human family is today on the earth. People don't see anything. All they know is they're watching television, watching the ball game, and doing whatever little thing they're doing with their life. But they have no idea in the world what actually is going on the planet Earth and where we have come from and who is here with us.
Right.
And the invisible world that we can't see. So I'm just saying it's a very, very evil and very frightening world when you really begin to understand, what the situation is, and now where we are as humans right now in the time in which we're living.
Yes.
With the world, poised, getting ready to blow up.
Oh yes. Well, like I said, Jordan,
the evil that's going on.
It's evil, but it's
very, very scary.
It's the culmination of this 6,000-year master plan, coinciding into this new world religion, this one world religion, and all those satanic artists that we mentioned. I mean,
of course, yeah.
they can criticize Judaism, they can criticize Christianity, but don't you dare criticize Islam, right?
That's right. That's it. You can't do that because Islam is totally, in my humble opinion, I've been looking at this for some 56 years. Like I said so many times before,
yeah.
I'm looking at these subjects longer than most of the people in the audience have even been alive. I was giving lectures on secret societies and occultism and religion and governments as far back as 1960. some 56, 57 years
Legendary.
ago. And so I've been looking at this thing for a long time. And I've had way too many experiences that are not of this world, that operate outside of nature. So again, I say that these are preternatural experiences.
Right.
And so it tells me that we are being watched. Somebody is watching us. And somebody has plans for our destiny, and we don't know it.
Right.
We're just going along to get along, never realizing what our government is really all about, and what our government or military industrial complex is really actually doing, and where we're going, and the connections between the UFO, the alien agenda, and the military industrial complex on the earth.
Yes.
There's something very, very scary and very dark going on.
And who are these watchers, Jordan? Who are they?
Well, that's a very important question, and I am sure I've heard too many people on the inside of government, highly placed people on the inside of government, have said to me, there's not one, there's quite a few different, quite a few different species of alien life forms that are here on the earth. Phil Corso, I think he was a colonel in the Army at the time under Eisenhower and Truman. But Phil Corso wrote a book the day after Roswell, in which he talked about how the extraterrestrial aliens have been feeding the American government technology, and we've made deals with them. They give us technology, and we let them do things here on the earth and not stop them.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting subject of who, in fact, is really running the earth today.
But they leave
who
clues.
Actually owns it, and what part are we as humans? What part do we play? Because I'm telling you, we do not have any of, we humans, not just in America, but we humans do not have any power to do anything. We can, of course, every 4 years you can elect, and so we can elect our leaders, but you can't select your leaders. You can only elect what is given to you.
No, they select them, right, Jordan? But you know, they leave clues. They leave clues that the watchers have left. I mean, if you look at Quran, Anu, Quran. I mean, it's right there. And this is, I believe, Islam is this new world religion, this one world religion, as you've said, that they're pushing us towards.
Well, the AN on the end of the Quran, it ends in the two letters AN. It connects that book and that philosophy in the book to the God An,
yes,
or Anu, and that's why it's called Quran,
Anunnaki,
and it's a very, very serious stuff, boy. When you start seeing the connection with the words, the terms, the symbols, and what they mean, and how they're connected behind the scenes to secret societies, and then beginning to look at how countries are formed and the history of the human race, I'm just telling you, something very bad is happening on the earth, and it's now becoming overwhelming and obvious to the whole world. And eventually, the people, especially in this country, in America, are going to wake up and find out that there is definitely is, in fact, some kind of an unseen force behind world events. And that dark and unseen force is now in total control of our country and our destiny as human beings. So it's a very, very frightening situation to look at and to contemplate, because I've seen so many millions of Americans that have no idea in the world what is actually going on right now, and where we've come from, and where our technology comes from, and how our destiny as a human race is being It's a secret agenda. Somebody is guiding the whole human race. We're in the crosshairs of a world war. Something terrible is coming.
Right.
And so I hate to sound like an old man who's, curmudgeon. I'm not an old man, and I'm not a curmudgeon. I am just telling you, I have been looking at the world for about 60 years of my life. And for the past 56 years, I've been studying, around the clock, studying the world of the occult in religion and science and government and the human existence on the earth. And it's a strange world we live in. Once you start opening your eyes and looking at all the dark stuff that you've never known about, it gets very, very scary. So I don't know where we're going as a human family. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do have a lot of information that I have collected over the past 50 some odd years. And a lot of documents, pictures, especially research papers, government.
Plug your website, Jordan. We're on with Jordan Maxwell here on the Bruce Montalvo Show. If you want to support him, if you want to reach out and join his exclusive research society, Jordan's going to let you know how to do it. Let him
know. Well, all you need to do is just go on my podcast, which is my website, actually. It's just jordanmaxwellshow.com. So if you want my material and looking for the stuff with me, it's jordanmaxwellshow.com. And when you go on my website, jordanmaxwellshow.com, you will see an advertisement to join another research website I have. And it's called the Jordan Maxwell Research Society website. And you can join that, and it's a private website that you have to join. And on that website, I am uploading, or my webmaster is uploading all of my research over the years, all the documents, pictures, articles, links, audio, video, all kinds of research that I've been doing on all kinds of subjects, most of which most people have never heard of before. So if you want to really make yourself available for all of the information I'm talking about you've never seen before, then just go on my website, jordanmaxwellshow.com, and you will see a banner advertising a secret website called Jordan Maxwell Research Society, and join that. And you'll see what I mean. I've got tons of documents and free audio, videos, free ebooks, documents, research papers on so many different subjects. And I'm putting a lot on every day, and we've got a lot more coming. And so it's going to be massive.
Unbelievable. I mean, I've learned so much from you. I mean, just fountains of information. And like this, for instance, I mean, the occult meaning or the occult name of Israel. I mean, I support the Jews' right to exist, being a Sephardic Jew myself. I mean, Israel being on the forefront of fighting Islamic extremists. And it was called historically Judea and Samaria. But there's a occult nature, an occult meaning that the Illuminati put on Israel. Why don't you explain that a little? Israel. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's the word Israel. Well, first of all, I have to go back into history, and the history of the ancient history of ancient Israel. We're finding out now from around the world, but especially in Israel, some of the best minds in Israel today are writing. Professors and teachers are now talking about the fact that the ancient history of Israel never happened. There was no ancient Israel. There never was an ancient Israel. The Israel that we are given to understand, supposedly of ancient Israel, was actually a story developed about the 8th, 9th, and 10th century A.D. by the Knights Templars. and the Knights Templars was a Vatican military arm of the Vatican. The Vatican was using them to collect monies, to use them in military pursuits. And so the Vatican, or the Knights Templars under the leadership of the Vatican, began to develop stories which gave them legitimacy. So they needed to legitimize what the Vatican was doing. And so the best way to do that is to show that the Vatican and Christianity, or the Christianity of the Vatican, was based on something very holy and very, very important, and that was the holiness of Israel, the Jewish people.
Well, the same thing with the Christianity, Catholicism. Everything is based on basically paganism and just a bunch of folklore and stories, right?
Of course it was. Of course,
from
that's exactly right.
From Hanukkah to many things. It's just stories. Christmas is just a story for. Basically, metaphors for sun worship at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course it is. So it was, and that's a whole story in itself when you get into the metaphor of the New Testament, and who was Jesus and why was he called God's Son, and then you find out it's sun worship, S-U-N, sun worship.
Yes.
I have 2 new videos which are dealing with this specific subject. The 2 new videos I have produced, and they're brand new. They're on my website. Go to Jordan Maxwell Show. And on the home page, you will see the advertisement for the 2 new videos. One is called Cosmocratorus, or Cosmocrat. And Cosmocrat is 2 words put together from the Greek language. Cosmo is the world, is translated the world. And crat is a ruler, like plutocrat, democrat. So crat is ruler, and cosmos is a world.
Right.
And so in the Bible, book of Ephesians 6:12, I think it is, I think the book of Ephesians, the Apostle Paul said, and I'm just paraphrasing this, but the Apostle Paul said, we have a war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and the world rulers of darkness.
Powers of darkness.
Yeah. And so the word for rulers of world darkness was cosmocratorus, or cosmocrats.
Yeah.
And so I have a video, a brand new video I've worked on for many years and finally got it done. It's called Cosmocrats because in dealing with and showing documents and documentation showing who is running this planet, who is actually behind the world governments and how they're doing it and the symbols and the words they're using and what they have done, what they're doing now, and what they're getting ready to do. But it's all documented from government documents, from research institutions around the world.
Right.
And so it's a brand new video called Cosmocrats, or Cosmocrat. And with that, I have a second part 2 to that, which is called Unveiling, or I can't remember the name of it again, Unveiling an Ancient Mystery.
Yes.
And that one is about the mysterious founding and foundations of Western Christian civilization. Where did our so-called Western civilization come from? What is it based on? And what connection does it have to the dark forces of the world? And so that's a whole subject in itself.
Right.
But it's actually a complementary information to Cosmocrats. So
to this whole program.
Videos and,
right.
Say it again.
To the whole program, and we were talking about who the Watchers are. These are the Cosmocrats. They rule the cosmos.
That's right. These are like I said, the cosmos in Greek is world.
Yes. And
krats is rulers. And so in the Bible, the Apostle Paul says in the book of Ephesians, that Christians, and he said that we have a war not against flesh and blood, not against your fellow man, but we have a war against the cosmocrats, the world rulers from behind the scenes, people you've never heard of before,
Right.
people you don't even know exist, and their symbols and words and terms of their secret society.
The Knights Templar.
Yeah, Knights Templar.
Basically
it's even bigger than that. It's part of the story, but it's a bigger story yet.
Absolutely. And these Knights Templar, Jordan, I don't mean to cut you off, but they are modern day bankers. Today there are modern day bankers.
The Knights Templars coming from the Catholic Church, going back to the 8th, 9th, and 10th century, in the Vatican. There was a secret society called the Order of the Temple of Solomon, or the Knights Templars.
Yes.
They became, today, they're still here, they're still operating, but today we refer to them as the international bankers out of London, out of New York, London, Paris, the international banking cartel that finance and rule the world from behind the scenes. But they are referred to as Knights Templars, or today they're called the international bankers of the world. And when you keep in mind that the Vatican, they came from the Vatican, so the Vatican is heavily involved in something very, very dark.
The Vatican, who is obsessed with bastardizing Jews and the Jewish people, they've been, literally going after Jews since the beginning of time.
Yeah, well, I've said that so many times that when you hear people talking about the Jewish involvement in world conspiracy, I am saying you need to go back and look at this subject all over again, because you're looking in the wrong place.
You should go look in Bavaria. I mean,
yeah.
You see how the Illuminati, the occult, they ISIS, Amun-Re, and then El, and they attribute that to. They literally took over that little strip of land that's Israel, like New Jersey. It's not for the Jewish people.
No, I know, but see, if you go back into history, way back into the ancient Egyptians, we know the ancient Egyptians existed, but there was no ancient Israel. But the ancient Egyptians, many thousands of years ago, they had the worship of a female goddess named Isis.
Yeah.
Isis. And then later on, Pharaoh Akhenaten, or one of the pharaohs at that time, came in and did away with the worship of Isis, the feminine, and got rid of the feminine aspect of religion in Egypt, and then made it into a masculine religion. And the new religion was called the worship of the Amun-Re, Amun-Ra, R-A, Ra, which is the sun. And so the sun god's name was Amen, A-M-E-N hyphen R-A, Amun-Re, or Amen-Ra. And so today when Christians are praying to God's Son, the light of the world, well, of course the sun is the light of the world. Well, the sun was called Amen-Ra. And so today, when Christians are praying to God's Son, they always end the prayer by saying Amen. And that goes back to the Egyptian god Amen-Ra. But so now we've got the Egyptian god Ra, which is R-A. We put a Y onto it today, and we call it Sun Ray. No, it's R-A, Ra. Then when the Hyksos people had wars in Egypt, they had come into Egypt illegally, and eventually there was a war broke out. The Egyptians had enough of the Hyksos people who had come across illegally into their country, and they chased them out, and there were wars with the Hyksos people. And the Hyksos went north into what we call today Palestine. And in Palestine, the Hyksos, who had learned the religion of Isis when they were in Egypt, then they had to relearn the new religion of Amun-Re, Amun-Ra. Then when they were kicked out and went north into Palestine, they encountered the Palestinian people. The Palestinians had their own god, and his name was El, E-L.
The Palestinians were basically referred to as Hebrew, as Jewish people. A Palestinian meant Hebrew as well.
Yeah, so the
Hebrew people.
Actually was the planet Saturn.
Yes.
And so when you put the three names of the ancient divinities together, I-S for Isis, R-A for Ra, and E-L for El, the Palestinian god, it becomes Isis, Ra, El, or Israel.
Right.
Israel is Isis, Ra, El.
So they're a cult holy trinity.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's totally Vatican inspired, right? I mean,
it is.
It's gotta be
the Vatican inspired deception.
The Goyim over at the Vatican.
Yeah,
just kidding.
But boy, when you start looking at even the Hebrew God Yahweh, when you're spelling the Hebrew God Yahweh, you spell it with 4 letters, and it's called the Tetragrammaton.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Tetragrammaton is 4 letters, and all Jews will tell you that God's name is so very holy, and it can be spelled with 4 Hebrew letters, and and those 4 Hebrew letters are called Tetragrammaton. Tetra for 4, gramma for letters are gramma, and tetra is 4. So it's the 4 letters that make up the name of God. Tetragrammaton. A-T-O-N, Tetragrammaton, and the Aton was another name for Amun-Ra, for the sun god.
Yeah.
This is why in all synagogues today, all over the earth, in any country you go to, all synagogues you will see the 4 letters for the name of God, and it is always, and in every instance, always inside of a glowing sun.
Yeah.
Always inside of a sun, because it's the Aton, the Tetragrammaton. And so it's the Aton worship, which the Egyptians called Amun-Ra, which the Christians call God's Son. So it's an incredible story about where theology and religions have actually come from, and all of the ancient religions and theologies are connected to an extraterrestrial foundations, extraterrestrial, alien, and this is why Hollywood is filled with movies about aliens,
right,
and Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, all of these mystical shows about, E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all kinds of movies about extraterrestrials on the earth, are coming to the earth. And my God, during the 50s, every week there was a new movie about the ETs and demons coming from
H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells films were pretty big back then, right?
Yep.
Right.
So the whole of religion today, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, Jesus, Allah. Allah started off being a sun god.
Right.
A long, long time ago. And then later on, he developed into a moon god. And and Allah is simply Yahweh. Yahweh is Hebrew.
But it's the same God.
It's the same God,
right.
Yahweh or Allah. And Allah is the Arabic word for God. Yahweh is the Hebrew word for God. But it's the same God, same word.
Right.
Yahweh or Allah. And it simply means the Lord and God. And but you will see that Moses, we could go on and talk about this for days.
No, it's a compendium of information that never ends. I could get into the secrets, as you've covered the secrets of the Temple of Solomon, and these goetic demons that Solomon was a sorcerer. These are the same.
Solomon,
yes, the same demons they wield today.
Like Israel, it's Sol Om On. S-O-L is the sun. Yeah. Sol. Om, O-M, is the Hindu god of creation, the Om.
Yes.
And then in Egypt, the city of the sun was called Heliopolis. Well, that's what the Greeks call it, Heliopolis. but the actual name for that city was called On, O-N. Go to a dictionary and look up the word O-N, On, and you will see that the word On was the city of the sun, or the Greeks called it Heliopolis.
Yeah.
So Heliopolis originally was called On. This is why when you walk into a dark room, you flip a light switch on, because On is the word for light, Heliopolis. Helios, when Greek, was the sun, so it's the city of sun worship.
Right, and since we got out of the gate as a species, Jordan, I mean humanity, there's been reptilian symbolism all over us, all over humanity,
everywhere you look.
You know what baffles me is the medical emblem. I mean, I go to a doctor and I expect them to get me better, but why are there snakes on the medical emblem? I mean, that's venomous, right? I mean, right away it gives me like my spider sense, just like red flags when I see these symbols, Jordan.
Yeah, I know. Me too. But the thing is, I've been looking at these symbols as far back as 1959, 56 years ago.
Yeah.
I've been looking at this stuff for over 56 years. And again, I say it because it's important from my viewpoint. I'm looking at a subject that most people haven't spent 56 minutes on.
Exactly.
And I've spent my whole life looking at it. But most people are not interested to hear the real truth. Because the real truth is very, very hurtful, and people don't want to have to face the fact that they've been wrong and been supporting something that they didn't understand. And so I think it's incredible that you, at your young age, and others like you at your age, are waking up. Because I'm telling you, I've often thought about this, that what would it be like if you were 90 years old in an old folks home and all your friends have passed away and you happen to be 90 years old and you're sitting in the old folks home by yourself and your family's gone, everyone's gone, and then you find out how much in this world you never knew. All of the wondrous knowledge and wisdom and ancient secrets of the world, you never knew any of it. You just spent your whole life believing what somebody else told you, believing what your preacher told you, what your rabbis told you, what your holy men told you, what your books read, but never realized for a moment what the world was really all about, and all the things you could have known, all the things you could have learned. And now at 90 years old, you have no idea in the world about any of it, and you're going to leave the world and never knew why you were even here.
That'd be sad. Incredibly sad. Tragic.
So that's why I'm saying it would be absolutely tragic how you have wasted your life believing things which you were told to believe.
Right.
People around you. You went to the church, you went to the synagogue, you went to the mosque, or I don't care what you're going to. Why? Well, because all of your friends go there. Yeah, but all of your friends collectively together only got an IQ of 30. And you've devoted your whole life to something because your friends went there.
Right.
And now you find out your friends are all dead and they're all gone, and all this stuff that they were telling you was a bunch of lies and fabrications and stupidity. And now all you got left is sitting in an old folks' home at 90 years old.
Horrible. I don't want to imagine that, Jordan. I mean, let me tell you something. The more I study ancient religions, I mean, thanks to you, like Mithraism, the more I realize that, like you said, the secrets of the universe are right there before our eyes to attain. Okay?
Been right there, you just never saw it.
That's right. I mean, the universe is so vast, and like we know it'd be foolish for us to believe that we're alone in this cosmos. But the more I look into it, I mean, it becomes like a poetic allegory. You know, what did they do in the pre-Roman times of Mithraism? They gave them these hallucinogens. Many of these religions have been based around mind expansion or these hallucinogens. I mean, the mind expansion of drugs. They've been a part of ancient religions and ancient man since the dawn of time.
Far back as you can go. Absolutely.
That's why I also believe inherently. I'm trying to deal with space reptiles like a human being, and given the evidence, I see that we could very well, through our third eye, through our pineal gland, through the psychoactive effect of some of these drugs, we could very well manifest some of these reptile beings within ourselves also.
Well, look at in the medical profession. You can look up in the encyclopedia, look up the word reptilian, and you will find that in the medical encyclopedias, it will tell you that in between the two lobes, lobes of the human brain, the left and the right side of the human brain, in the middle of the human brain is a small little brain. And science calls it, the medical profession calls that little brain the reptilian.
Wow.
And that's the actual term that's in the medical books.
Is that could it be the pineal gland? This is what we're talking about, right? The reptilian?
Yeah, it's right in the same area.
Yeah.
But it's called the reptilian. And,
wow.
And you've got to ask yourself, why do the doctors call that little brain between the two lobes of your brain, both sides of your brain, and in the middle there's a small one, and it's called the reptilian. That's history. That's science. Go look it up in the dictionary.
Like the medulla oblongata in the alligators makes them angry. I don't want to sound like the water boy, but it makes them that's where all these anger or jealousy, hate. It comes from this reptilian, and then you hear it also in actual science, like you said, in alligators.
Yeah, I know. Well, and when you get into the Old Testament of the Bible and read it, and understand what you're reading, even just in the first couple of chapters of Genesis, once you really see what's encoded there right in front of you. Let me give you an example. In the King James Version of the Bible, the King James Translating Committee were excellent translators of the King's English, but they weren't that hot on Hebrew and Greek. So they made mistakes. And so the first mistake they made is in Genesis 1:1. The very first chapter of Genesis, the very first sentence, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." But that's not what it says in the original Hebrew. It doesn't say that. Because in the Hebrew language, God is El, E-L. El is God in Hebrew.
Elohim, El?
El,
yes.
E-L, period, is God. And so the correct translation should be, in the beginning, El created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But that's not what it says in Hebrew. It says in the original, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Not El. Elohim, which is a totally different word.
And they chant Eloheinu, and also.
And Elohim is simply God. Elohim is plural. It's a plural. It's like adding a comma and an S to the word. You take the word car, C-A-R, and put an S on the end of it, becomes plural. Cars, more than one. Well, El is God, but if you put Elohim on it, it is a plural.
Yes.
So therefore, the correct translation should be, in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth, not God.
Yeah.
And then that would then explain why in Genesis 1:28, when God is creating Adam and Eve, Christians will tell you, there it is, right in the first chapter of the Bible, tells you that God is creating man. And it says in Genesis 1:28, and God said, "Come, let us make man in our image after our likeness." And so there it is, the scripture shows that God is creating man. But the rabbis will tell you, no, no, no. It's a mistranslation and you're misreading it. It doesn't say God created man. There is no scripture in the Bible that says God created man. Go back and read it correctly. The scripture in Genesis 1:28 says, it says, God said, let us, and who's us?
That's right.
Let us make man in our image after our likeness. And the rabbis told me many years ago that you're not reading the sentence correctly. The way it should be read is, the gods said, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Not make man, man's already here. But come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness.
Right.
So what you're talking about is somebody has come here who has the technology and the wisdom and the knowledge to redesign us, to intervene in our natural evolution and make us look like them.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you begin to see that we look like the gods who came here, who created us. And then later on, in Genesis 9:1, is talking about after the flood, a flood of Noah's day. The scripture in Genesis 9:1 says, God said to Noah and his sons and their wives, God says to Noah after the flood, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth. And so I talked with the rabbis many years ago, back in the 60s, and we talked about this. And they said to me that it makes sense if God has destroyed the earth with a great flood,
right,
and everyone's dead and everyone's gone except those on the ark. And if God wants people on the earth, then it would make sense that Genesis 9:1, where God says to Noah, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth.
Right. I remember reading that, Jordan. But speaking of earth, I mean, or the earth being destroyed, what do you make of the flat earth theory?
Well, I don't even get into that because, as far as I'm concerned, the judgment on that's too far away. I don't know.
Really?
No, I've heard all
right.
the arguments for both sides. I've heard all the stories, all the arguments.
I hear you.
I'm not sure. I'm not God. I'm not sure.
I know, but Jordan, I've been looking at it a little bit. I'm not God either, but they had to come up with some type of excuse why people don't fall off the edge of Australia, right? And here's the thing. Okay. They say the globalists rule the world and rule me. Well, if I stop believing that they are on a globe, then they're not ruling anybody. They're not globalists anymore, right?
Well, I know, but it's just a term.
I say that because I saw a very interesting video about that was had you in the title, and it had you explaining flat Earth, but you weren't explaining the flat Earth. You were explaining the meaning of fall or autumn, why astrologically why they call the autumn season fall. I mean, I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, it is a whole very interesting story. To get back to what I was saying, which incidentally I forgot what I was saying.
You were talking about man, that we were made in their image. You're mentioning the scriptures.
Oh, yeah. So I asked the rabbis about Genesis 9:1, where it says, God said to Noah after the flood, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth. And I asked the rabbi, I said, is that a correct translation in English, to go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth? Because means to do it again.
Yeah.
To replenish. And the rabbi said, well, of course, if God has destroyed all life on the earth, and if his purpose is to have people on the earth, then there were people on the earth, but he wiped them all out. So now you have to replenish the earth.
Right, and
Again,
who did he wipe out? The giants. I mean, we talked about
but my
Bigfoot.
point being, the point I'm aiming at,
yes,
is that the word replenish means to do it again. And why would Noah be told by God to do it again? Well, because there was a lot of people on the earth before the flood. There's nobody on the earth after the flood. So if you want to have people on the earth, then God's going to tell Noah and his sons, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth.
The first time they went around.
My point is this: Genesis 1:28, when God is supposedly creating Adam and Eve, God says in Genesis 1:28 to Adam and Eve, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth.
Yeah.
So they're telling the first couple, supposedly the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, to do again, replenish the earth.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Why was Adam and Eve supposed to replenish the earth?
Because the powers of darkness were populating on the earth, and they wanted to redo it.
Well, the point being is that there have been human life and an intelligent life like humans on this earth for billions of years.
Yes.
Billions with a B. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of years there's been highly intelligent life on the earth. And so the Bible in Genesis 1 is talking about our particular time of life, our particular dispensation.
Yes.
And so in our particular time for us, God is saying to Adam and Eve, go forth, multiply, and replenish the earth. Do it again, which implies that God has been seeing for millions and millions of years different civilizations on the earth coming and going. And there's no doubt in anybody's mind that has studied the subject that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That there's been all kinds of highly intelligent creatures on this earth for hundreds of millions of years. And so Adam and Eve is just for our particular time to go forth and replenish the earth again. So
and many
this is a whole subject. This is a whole subject that most people have never heard anything
Jordan,
about.
Many people don't know that the story of Adam and Eve actually originated in ancient Mesopotamia.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah,
course,
I know you know.
And of course, it wasn't a man called Adam, Adam. No, it's the word in the actual Hebrew is Adm, not Adam. It's Adm, and so I mean, when you just go back and look at the words, and this is why I highly recommend that if you're going to get a Bible, if you're going to read a Bible, get the one I highly, highly recommend. And it's on my website. Go to JordanMaxwellShow.com. And at the top of the page on JordanMaxwellShow.com, you will see a link that says recommends or recommending or recommends.
Right.
And those are the books and videos and people that I recommend. And I think the fourth book on that recommend is the Kriegel Bible. It's the King James Bible, but it's called the Companion Bible. You don't have to go trying to find it. You don't have to go looking for it. It's right there on my home page under Recommends. And so click on Recommends and look at the fourth book and being recommended is called the Companion Bible. That's the one you need to get because it gives you all of the background information that all the other Bibles in the world will not tell you. It tells you the real story of what the words actually mean, what was actually being said. It is cram-filled with some of the most interesting, fascinating stuff on the Bible and words in the Bible and the concepts in the religions that we have never heard. so much stuff in that Kriegel Bible, the companion Bible, that is absolutely phenomenal, fascinating.
Absolutely. You know what I've noticed as well, Jordan? Not just in the Bible, but when I'm looking at law books or the court system or criminal justice, there's an awful lot of occult symbolism, occult words. The other day it just hit me. What happens when you go to jail? Who do you have to pay? You have to pay bail, right? That was kind of scary.
Yeah, well, I know. You have to bail. That's what you do when your boat is taking on water.
Yes.
Then you have to go get a bucket and bail you out.
Right.
So it's the use of words and terms and symbols and just an extraordinary world of deception that people are not aware of. And that's what I've been trying to do all of my life, is just to wake people up to the fact that you have no idea in the world what's going on, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't understand it.
Right.
But once you understand how the world really works, it will then become very scary, actually frightening, because then you wake up and find out how this world has actually been put together and what the scriptures are actually saying. And boy, that's a whole eye-opening. And so if you're interested in that kind of information, then go to my website, again, Jordan Maxwell Show, and join my research society. It's right there on the home page. Join the research society, and that's where I'm putting all of this kind of information. And I do mean all kinds of information, from audios, videos, documents, pictures, research papers.
A lot of your old school stuff, like the priesthood of Illis and that type of information, right?
Yeah. Are you a member of the research society?
I need to send you $30. I have your PayPal.
But you will find, especially in my favorite part of that research society, is the theology.
Yes.
And in there are some mind-blowing stuff that religious people, both Jews and Christians, have no idea in the world. And it's all right there with pictures and documents showing you where these ideas and religion have actually, in fact, come from.
Right.
So, again, I would just say to anyone hearing, if you really want to avail yourself of some really dark knowledge and wisdom that has taken me some 56 years to dig out of the history books, go to JordanMaxwellShow.com and join the Research Society.
Beautiful consolidation of Jordan's work right there. Definitely check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Well, moving on to something even more phantasmagorical, Jordan. We know that the Nazis took over Hollywood. Hell, they invented it. But many people don't know that the Nazis took over Antarctica as well.
Oh, of course they did. But what really is interesting is when you listen to people like I have been listening to him for years, Joseph Farrell.
Yes.
Have you ever heard Joseph Farrell's lectures?
I've heard of him. Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, well, Joseph Farrell will knock you off. He'll knock you over. The stuff he talks about will blow your mind. And he's talking about the whole international Nazi world movement, and it was not defeated in World War II.
Oh no,
that was just a particular war was won by the Allied forces, but the destruction of Nazism never happened. The Nazis are today running the entire world. The United States, Europe, Russia, the Nazi movement is an extremely powerful, well-hidden, dominating the whole planet. And that's a whole story that needs to be told. People think Nazism is all gone. No, you better go back and do your homework.
Yeah,
Nazism runs the whole entire planet today.
Google Operation Paperclip. That's your homework assignment if you're oblivious or you got your head up your ass.
That's right. You just start there.
Yeah.
Just start there, and then it will open up a whole can of worms. And the more you look into it, the more you're going to find the whole world is lying in the power of the Nazi movement.
The whole world is like boys from Brazil, I realized.
And unfortunately, most people don't see it. And anyway, as I said, my website is jordanmaxwellshow.com.
Right.
And then go on and you will see the advertisement for my 2 new videos, Cosmocrat and Exposing a Dark Mystery. And both of those videos are there now. I finally got them done. And we can do the show again another time when you want.
Absolutely, Jordan. Just a quick rundown before we go. I got some fan mail pertaining you. They asked me to let you know that there's someone that is trying to trademark your name. Apparently, this person, they went by and they were contacting the U.S. trademark office, and they noticed that they're trying to trademark your name. So I want to get that out to you.
Could you send that to me either by email or on Skype mail?
Yes.
Send me whatever you got on Skype mail or email, because I'd be very happy to want to look at it. I want to see it.
Definitely.
Myself.
We want to make sure there's no funny business. We know in the past, there are evil people out there that are trying to steal your life's work, and I'll be damned if I sit idly by and let them do this to a great man, a great voice, a great friend, Jordan Maxwell.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate your help and your support, and I'll get back to you. We'll talk later.
Definitely, too. Jordan. I want to have you on next week because last time you were on, we had some technical difficulties. Unfortunately, much of that broadcast, it was aired, but it wasn't usable. But we'll definitely get into Nikola Tesla next week, your travels in Egypt, your TV series, and so much more,
Yeah, well, it's up to you. Whenever you want, you email me. Email me is usually the best way to get a hold of me. And let me know what you want to do, and I'll get back to you. I'm always here.
You got it, my friend. The great, the legendary Jordan Maxwell has joined us. Thank you, Jordan. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was Jordan Maxwell, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm signing out. This was a special Montalvo broadcast. You should have tuned in Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern for the big show, the big one with me and Jaja. Stay tuned to Montalvo Broadcasting Network, MBM, for late-breaking news. And to keep up with the Bruce Montalvo Show, follow us on Twitter at Bruce Montalvo, at Jaja. Be sure to like us on Facebook, at Montalvo Nation, at Bruce Montalvo Show. Just anything Bruce Montalvo, click like. All right, this has been a special Bruce Montalvo Show. And remind you that, we're here. We're here for you, We love you guys, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Take it easy.